life is short, and sometimes we get stuck in thoughts, worries about things that cannot be changed. Have you ever felt like you are carrying an invisible burden on your shoulders? A burden from past events, from wrong decisions, from things left unfinished, or from regrets about the past? Once I met an old friend who told me about the stressful years of his work. He always tried to finish everything quickly and perfectly, but he could never feel the joy in his work. Only exhaustion and a sense of emptiness in his heart. He said that he was always afraid of not achieving the goals he set, so he forced himself every day. The dreams, expectations, and pressures from himself and society prevented him from finding peace. At that moment, I suddenly remembered a teaching of the Buddha. Life is short, don't carry burdens. This is a profound reminder not to let the past and worries take over our minds. We can only live fully in the present when we let go of the invisible burdens we carry. The Buddha teaches that letting go does not mean giving up everything, but letting go of sorrow, regrets, and unnecessary worries. Do not let burdens make you forget joy and peace. If we can stop, reflect, and forgive ourselves, life becomes much lighter. So instead of continuing to carry burdens that cannot be changed, let us learn to let go. Only then can we experience freedom and inner peace in our hearts. Life is sometimes like waves constantly crashing against the shore, never stopping. There are times when we feel drowned in vague thoughts, worried about things that have passed and things yet to come. That feeling is like a small storm inside, sweeping away all the peace, leaving only exhaustion and emptiness. I have a close friend, Min, who always tries to complete everything in life. From work to relationships, from family decisions to personal plans. He always looks at the past with things undone and the future with worries about what might happen. Once, I asked Min, "Why are you always so worried?" He replied, "I'm afraid I won't finish everything in time. I'm afraid of not achieving what I want. I'm afraid I might miss an opportunity." Hearing him, I realized that worries are not uncommon. We all have moments when our minds are heavy with unanswered questions. And it is this worry that makes us lose the present moment, forgetting the peaceful moments right in front of us. The Buddha teaches, life is short, don't carry burdens. That saying is a sincere reminder for us to understand that life is not long, and worries about the past or future only make us tired, unable to enjoy the good things in the present. When we cannot live in this moment, we lose the peace we could have in this very moment. Let me give you a simple example. Have you ever walked in a park on a beautiful morning, when the sun gently shines down, when the breeze brushes through your hair, but you cannot feel the tranquility in your heart? Because your mind is busy thinking about work from yesterday, about relationships that are not going well, or worrying about what will happen in the future. At that moment, no matter how wonderful the surroundings are, you still cannot feel peace. Many times, we carry the pain from the past that we cannot let go. It could be wrong decisions, broken relationships, or failures we have experienced. We keep living in those memories, thinking that by recalling them, we will find a solution. But in reality, it only makes us more heartbroken. I remember a story about an elderly woman I met during a meditation retreat. She shared that for many years, she could not let go of a wrong decision she made in the past. She had once turned down a great job opportunity because she feared failure. And for many years, she lived with that regret. Every time she thought about it, she could not help but feel sad and blame herself. But when she attended the retreat, she realized that every passing moment is a new opportunity, and past decisions are just part of the journey, not the final destination. The Buddha teaches that the past cannot be changed. What we can do is learn to accept it and live fully in the present. When we let go of worries about the past, we will feel much lighter. Letting go doesn't mean we forget, but we learn not to let the past take over our minds. As for the future, we have another habit, worrying too much about things that have not happened. Some people are afraid of not knowing what the future will bring. They worry about work, health, family, about things they cannot control. And then in that moment, they miss the opportunity to live fully in the present moment. I once heard a story about a wealthy man who always lived in fear of the future. Whenever there was a beautiful day, he would think, will my company survive the next year? Will I be able to keep my health? And so, he missed precious moments with his family and friends, just because he was afraid of things he couldn't control. The Buddha taught that the future is something no one can predict. We can plan and prepare well, but we cannot live in fear of what might happen. The important thing is to do our best in the present and trust that whatever comes will come. When we live fully in each moment, we will not only lead a meaningful life, but also find inner peace. One of the methods the Buddha taught to deal with this worry is meditation. Meditation helps us calm our minds and bring our attention to the present. When we focus on each breath, on each step we take, we begin to let go of thoughts about the past and future. This does not mean we live without worry, but rather that we learn to recognize and master our emotions. It's like an artist painting a picture. If the artist only looks at the paintings they've finished in the past, or dreams of the picture they will create in the future, they will not be able to focus on creating a beautiful work in the present. Only when they focus their mind on each brushstroke, on each color on the canvas, can they create a completed masterpiece. We cannot carry everything with us. We cannot live forever in past memories or worry about things that haven't happened. Let each day pass in the peace and tranquility of the present. When we let go of worries about the past and future, our hearts will feel lighter and life will be more beautiful. Only when we live in the present can we truly live fully with ourselves. The Buddha taught, let go of what cannot be changed. Live fully with what you have, and you will find true peace. None of us can avoid at least once experiencing feelings of suffering, worry, or unease. These feelings may come from external events, but sometimes they originate from thoughts and emotions we cannot control within our own minds. The Buddha once taught, suffering originates from attachment in the mind. So what is attachment? Why does it lead to suffering? And how can we let go of these attachments to find peace? Here is a small story I once heard about a woman named Lan. Lan was someone who deeply loved and cherished her family, always trying to maintain good relationships with her relatives and friends. Once, she had a very close friend with whom she shared beautiful memories. But one day, that friend left her for a reason that could not be undone. Lan felt her heart break. She couldn't understand why this had happened to her. And for many months, she drowned in regret, in feelings of helplessness and pain. She kept thinking about what had happened, worrying about what she could have done differently, if only she could change time. One day, she met a teacher. After hearing her story, the teacher gently asked, "Can you keep the clouds in your sky forever? If you cling to those clouds, you will not be able to see the vast blue sky above, nor will you be able to see the other beautiful clouds coming." The teacher advised her that clinging to the past had prevented her from living fully in the present. If she kept holding on to the painful memories, she would never find the peace and happiness she truly deserved. To understand the Buddha's teaching more clearly, we need to realize that attachment is when our minds cannot let go of something, whether it is a memory, a person, an object, or a certain emotion. When we cling, we cannot let go of those things because we fear losing what we love. In reality, attachment is not only limited to material things or relationships, but can also include expectations and plans we make for the future. The more we desire something, the more we fear something, the more easily we become attached to it, and this leads to suffering. Attachment is one of the greatest causes of suffering in life. When we cannot let go, when we cannot accept the changes in life, our hearts become tense and weary. The Buddha taught, Everything in this world is impermanent, and attachment is the cause of suffering. When we stubbornly hold on to things that cannot be held, we create a cycle of suffering with no way out. Try to imagine you have a beautiful cup that you love very much. You always keep it in your hand, not wanting it to fall or get scratched. Every time you leave the house, you carefully take the cup with you, afraid it will be lost or damaged. This feeling of anxiety and fear continues, and whenever the cup falls or breaks, you feel extremely distressed and regretful. However, if you do not cling to the cup and realize that everything can change and is not meant to be yours forever, you will be able to let go more easily and not feel sad when losing something. Life is the same. We will never be able to control everything around us. The things we love, our relationships, even opportunities in life can come and go. If we keep clinging to them, we will not be able to live fully with what is present in our lives. Everything is impermanent, and if we can realize this, we will find peace in our hearts. The Buddha pointed out that attachment is one of the deep causes of suffering. When we cling to things that cannot be changed, we create a chain that binds our hearts. It is these worries, regrets, or the desire to possess everything that prevent us from living in the present moment. Suffering starts from a mind that cannot let go, that cannot live with what it has. This feeling of suffering does not only come from major events in life, but also from small worries in everyday life. We worry about work, relationships, health, and money. These worries are not bad, but when we cling too much to them, we feel stressed and exhausted. If we do not know how to let go, we will not find peace within. To escape attachment, the Buddha taught us to practice letting go. Letting go does not mean giving up everything, but rather not allowing those things to take over our hearts. We can love, we can desire, but we should not cling to those things. When we learn to let go, we will feel lighter, no longer living in worry, fear, or regret. One way to let go is to practice meditation. When we meditate, we are not just sitting still, but it is a journey that helps us reconnect with ourselves, with the present. Meditation helps calm the mind, helps us become more aware of our emotions and thoughts, and from that, we realize that worries and attachments are just temporary clouds. We can see them and let them go, so our hearts become clear and peaceful. Life is a long journey with many ups and downs, and sometimes we cannot control everything. But we can learn to let go of what cannot be changed. When we do this, we will no longer be caught in the cycle of attachment, and we will find peace in every moment. The Buddha taught, suffering originates from attachment in the mind. Let your heart be free, no longer bound by the past or worries about the future. Living in the present, loving what we have, and accepting the impermanence of life is the path to peace and happiness. All of us have experienced sorrow at least once. It may be a word left unsaid, a wrong decision, or a broken relationship. These pains follow us like dark clouds in the sky, preventing our hearts from being at peace. The Buddha taught that to live peacefully, we must learn to let go. Let go of sorrow, worries, and painful memories. Only when we let go can we live fully in the present, allowing our hearts to be free, not bound by the past. I once heard about a woman named Ha. Ha was a kind-hearted, gentle person, but for many years, she lived in sadness and regret. She had once had a happy family, but due to a misunderstanding, she and her husband separated. Although many years had passed, every time she thought of the old memories, her heart ached. She kept asking herself if she had done something differently, said kinder words, or understood more, would things have turned out differently? She tried everything to forget, but it seemed like those memories haunted her, never leaving her mind. She turned to movies, books, and even old friends, but nothing could erase the pain in her heart. Then, one day, she met a meditation teacher. After listening to her story, the teacher gently said, "You can hold on to an old picture in your hands, but it will never change. If you want to find peace, you need to let go of that picture and let it hang somewhere else, not in your heart. The teacher's words were like a beam of light shining into her mind. Ha realized that clinging to the past, to things that could not be changed, had prevented her from living fully in the present. She began to learn how to let go, how to live with what she had, instead of constantly looking back at what had passed. Letting go does not mean giving up everything, but rather not allowing those things to occupy our minds. It is the ability to recognize that everything changes and we cannot control everything. When we cling to the past, holding on to regrets, we create a cage for ourselves within our own hearts. Those pains, those worries, no matter how tightly we hold on to them, will not help us change the situation. In fact, they only make us tired and numb our ability to perceive the good things in life. The Buddha taught, everything is impermanent, nothing is eternal. Life is always changing, and so are our sorrows and sufferings. If we understand this, we will realize that letting go is part of maturity. It is the way to free the mind from things that cannot be changed. You have an old shirt that you've worn for many years, with many memories attached to it. One day, the shirt tears and can no longer be worn. You don't want to throw it away because it has been with you for so long, because of the memories of the past. But if you keep holding on to it, it will no longer be of any value. The shirt only makes you feel heavy because you can't wear it anymore, and you can't replace it with a new one. If you know how to let go of that shirt, you will have space to welcome new things, new opportunities, and new memories. Life is the same. We cannot keep holding on to what is gone. Relationships, work, decisions from the past, no matter how beautiful they were, cannot continue to live in the present. Letting go does not mean abandoning everything, but knowing when to accept change, when to renew ourselves to find peace and happiness. Suffering in life often comes from attachment. We cling to things that cannot be changed, to unrealistic expectations, to worries about the future, or regrets about the past. This attachment causes our hearts to remain restless, always searching for something out of our control. We cannot live in peace when we keep clinging to what has already passed. Imagine a person who always lives in anxiety about work. Every day, they wake up with tension, worrying about things that haven't happened yet. And throughout the day, their mind keeps revolving around work, around unfinished plans. Although the work continues, their mind is always caught in the whirlpool of anxiety. This only makes them tired, and gradually, they can no longer feel the joy in their work. Their life becomes a continuous cycle of worry because they don't know how to let go and live in the present. To let go of regrets, we need to practice an attitude of acceptance, accepting that life will not always go as we want, and that everything can change. When we accept impermanence, we will no longer worry or regret the things that have passed. Meditation is a wonderful method to help us let go. When we meditate, we learn how to observe our thoughts without judgment, without being drawn into them. We are simply the observer, not letting ourselves be swept away by negative thoughts. Practicing meditation helps us understand that these thoughts or emotions are just passing clouds, not the essence of who we are. Additionally, learning to live in the present is also very important. When we don't worry too much about the future or regret the past, we will feel lighter and more peaceful. Take time for the simple things in life, from enjoying a warm cup of tea, watching a beautiful afternoon, or simply listening to the sounds around you. These moments help our hearts find peace. Life is always changing, and if we keep clinging to what is past, we will not find peace. Letting go is not about giving up everything, but knowing how not to let what cannot be changed occupy our hearts. When we know how to let go, we will feel lighter, finding peace in every present moment. Live in serenity, not holding on to regrets, so our hearts can be free and happy. Life is always busy and full of noise, from the sound of horns on the street to the chatter and the echoes in our own minds. Sometimes, amidst the fast-paced rhythm of life, we forget that within ourselves lies an endless source of peace, the sound of our breath. The Buddha taught that when we listen and return to our breath, we will find peace. Breath, although simple and natural, can become the key to help us find peace in our hearts. The story is about a woman named Min, who was always busy with work and family. Every morning, she woke up early to prepare for a long day, from taking her child to school to completing tasks at the office. Min always felt like she had to work nonstop, with no time for herself, and her life just passed by in a hurry. One day, Min happened to hear a friend talk about meditation, about listening to the sound of the breath and slowing down to find peace. Min was curious, but also a bit skeptical, because she always thought that life was too busy and there was no time for things like that. However, after a long period of feeling tired and stressed, Min decided to give it a try. The first time she sat down to meditate, Min found it very difficult. Her mind was chaotic, and she couldn't focus on her breath. She kept thinking about work, thinking about the things she hadn't finished, and feeling exhausted. But then, Min remembered what her friend had said. Don't try to control your mind, just observe and listen to your breath. She began to follow this, gently inhaling and exhaling, listening to the sound of her breath as if she were hearing a gentle melody that only she could feel. Gradually, Min noticed a change. She no longer felt as tense as before, and instead, a sense of calm began to spread through her soul. Whenever she felt busy and stressed, Min would find a quiet corner to sit and listen to her breath. And from that moment on, she realized that peace wasn't something distant, but simply stopping listening and slowing down a little. Peace would naturally come. Breathing is one of the miracles we often overlook. Every day, we breathe thousands of times, but we rarely stop to be aware and feel it. The Buddha taught that breath is a way for us to connect with ourselves, and through that, connect with the universe around us. When we know how to listen to our breath, we will find a peaceful space in our own hearts. Breathing is not just a simple physiological act, it is also a bridge between the body and the mind. When we are stressed or anxious, our breath becomes fast and shallow. But when we relax, our breath slows down, deepens, and a sense of peace naturally follows. Breath is a wonderful tool to help us return to ourselves, to quiet our hearts, and to find peace in each moment. One morning, as the new sunlight shone through the window and you began a new day, you could open your eyes, take a deep breath, and feel the fresh air entering your body. Let each breath become a fresh greeting to life, starting the new day with ease and tranquility. Listening to the sound of your breath in the early morning is a great way to start the new day with peace. You can take a few minutes to inhale deeply. Hold your breath for a moment, then slowly exhale, feeling the air spread throughout your body. This not only refreshes your body, but also helps your mind to calm down, preparing you to face the challenges of the day without being overwhelmed by pressure or anxiety. We often hear about living slowly, but how do we live slowly to truly find peace? Living slowly does not mean stopping everything in life, but learning to enjoy the simple moments, living fully in each present second, and not letting the mind wander with worries and regrets. A simple example is when you eat. Instead of rushing, thinking about work or other things, take a moment to enjoy each bite, savor the flavors of each dish, and listen to the soft sound of the spoon touching the bowl. That feeling will bring relaxation to your body and mind, helping you return to the present and live more fully in every action. Living slowly is a way for us to listen to ourselves, to feel what is happening in life, and not miss the beautiful things in the present. When we live slowly, we can find peace in each moment, and from there, life becomes lighter and more peaceful. Peace is not a goal to be achieved, but a process. A process in which we learn how to let go, how to live fully in the present, and how to listen to what our mind and body are telling us. Peace comes when we stop trying to find it, but simply live naturally and honestly. Remember, every breath is an opportunity to return to ourselves. Listening to the sound of our breath not only helps us find peace, but also helps us realize that in every moment, we have the ability to create calmness from within ourselves. Life may be full of worries, but when we know how to stop, listen to our breath, and slow down, we will find peace right within ourselves. There is no need to search for peace elsewhere, because peace is always inside, as long as we know how to listen, understand, and live fully in each moment. Peace is a gift we can give ourselves, with just a little time to return to our breath and a little relaxation in our hearts. When that happens, life will become lighter, more relaxed, and fuller. Life is constantly changing, with worries, expectations, and sometimes fears about things that haven't yet happened. Especially when faced with important decisions, major changes, or challenges in work and family, we easily get caught in the whirlpool of anxiety and confusion. But in reality, if we stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and listen, we will realize that peace is always present in every moment of life, as long as we don't let our minds chase after what hasn't come yet. I have a friend named Min, a very intelligent person who always strives to complete every task in work and life. However, Min is always worried about the future. Every morning when he wakes up, instead of feeling peaceful and ready to begin a new day, Min feels tense. He worries about unfinished projects, about plans that haven't been executed, and wonders whether he will complete everything on time. Even though there are many good things in Min's life, he gets caught up in thoughts about things that haven't happened yet. He can't enjoy the present moments because his mind is always focused on future anxieties. One day, Min decided to join a meditation course organized by a famous spiritual teacher. After attending the first meditation session, Min felt that he had truly discovered something new. The teacher taught, "Let all thoughts about the future pass. The future will come when it comes. The important thing is to live fully with each moment in the present." At that moment, Min felt a breeze of calmness sweep through his soul, and he realized that worrying about what hasn't happened was just a useless game of the mind. The Buddha taught that worrying about the future is unnecessary because no one can predict what will happen. Everything, every phenomenon, changes over time, and the future is always full of surprises that we cannot control. Worrying not only burdens our souls, but also prevents us from living fully in the present. When we live too much in thoughts about the future, we miss out on the precious moments unfolding right before us. For example, in a simple life, have you ever felt worried about what will happen in the future, like work, family matters, or the big goals you hope to achieve? Instead of enjoying the small joys of daily life, like a beautiful morning, a fragrant cup of tea, or a quiet afternoon with family, we let our minds chase after plans and concerns about the future. It's like you are walking in a park, but instead of enjoying the fresh air, you're preoccupied with thoughts about work you need to finish. The precious moments slip by unnoticed. Peace is not a gift that is handed to us, but a choice to return to the present, not to be swept away by thoughts of the past or future. In every moment, peace is always present, but it can only exist when we choose to welcome it. This peace does not come from what we own or control, but from acceptance and living fully with what we have. I remember once, when I was traveling alone, I sat on a quiet beach at sunset. The sun slowly sank behind the waves crashing onto the shore, and I sat there, just listening to the sound of the sea. I didn't think about anything in my hectic life, didn't think about work, didn't think about the future. I just sat there, listening to the waves and feeling the gentle breeze. It was a wonderful sense of peace, as if time had stopped. One way to find peace is to learn to let go of worries. When we accept that there are things we cannot change or control, we will find our hearts lighter. Letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility or not caring about important things in life, but learning not to let worries take over our lives. We can plan for the future, but we shouldn't live in anxieties about things that haven't happened. Let's do our best in every moment, and when difficulties arise, we will know how to face them because we have lived firmly in the present. There's a story about an elderly man who lived a life full of difficulties and challenges. Although life was not easy, he always found peace in his heart. One time, a friend asked him, "How can you live peacefully like that when life is full of difficulties and uncertainty?" The old man smiled and said, "I have learned an important lesson in life. Don't worry about what hasn't come yet. Every day I live, I always feel each breath, each step, and I never let my mind be carried away by what will happen. I accept whatever comes and live fully in the present." We can find peace in every moment of life if we know how to stop and listen. Listening is not just hearing with the ears, but hearing with the heart, feeling the stillness within the soul, not being swayed by worries about the future or the past. When we stop to listen to our breath, we will feel the presence of life right in this moment. Peace is not somewhere far away, but right where we stand in the moment we are living and in how we face the world around us. Peace is not something distant or hard to achieve. Peace is present in every moment when we decide to let go of worries about the future, live fully in the present, and listen to our hearts. We don't need to search for peace elsewhere because it is always present in everyday life, as long as we choose to feel and embrace it. Peace is the gift life gives to those who know how to appreciate simple moments and live in acceptance, love, and serenity. We have all felt anxiety, but there is a type of anxiety that is hard to describe. It has no clear form, no specific reason, yet it dominates our minds, making our hearts restless. It's like a small wave, silently and quietly, but continuously lapping at our hearts, preventing us from feeling at ease. This kind of anxiety can arise from many things: unfinished work, unresolved relationships, or simply the feeling of not being able to control the future. The Buddha taught that these invisible anxieties are sometimes the deep causes of suffering in life. Although they have no concrete form, they can make our minds tired and heavy. So, how do we get rid of these formless worries that always haunt our hearts? I remember a friend named Min. Min is quite successful in his work, has a happy family, and his life is generally stable. However, Min always felt anxious about everything around him. Every day, when he woke up, instead of feeling peaceful and grateful for what he had, he started to worry about things that hadn't happened yet. It could be worry about work or fear of losing precious things in his life, but all of these worries had no clear form. Min couldn't pinpoint exactly what he was worried about, but he felt a persistent unease in his heart. One time, Min shared with me, "There are days when I wake up and feel like something isn't right. I don't know what I'm worried about, but my mind is constantly occupied with unsettled feelings. I fear that one day, my work will encounter problems, or that the relationships in my life will not last long. Although I don't have a specific reason to worry, it just keeps hanging over me." Listening to Min, I suddenly realized that sometimes we worry not because of a specific problem, but because of the feeling of not being able to control everything in life. This invisible worry is not something we can touch with our hands, but it still exists in our hearts and makes us feel exhausted. The Buddha taught that anxiety doesn't only come from things that have happened, but also from things that haven't happened, things we cannot see or control. These worries have no form, cannot be seen with the naked eye, but they can occupy our minds and create an invisible wall, preventing us from feeling peace in our hearts. For example, someone might worry about whether their work will succeed, even though everything is going smoothly. Or someone might worry about the future of a relationship, even though everything is stable now. These worries are not the result of specific events, but rather the uncertainty about things that haven't yet occurred. It's like when you stand in front of a closed door and imagine all the bad things that might happen inside, even though you don't really know what will happen. This feeling of fear lingers in your heart, but there is no clear basis to explain it. We all know that anxiety is a natural part of being human. When faced with uncertain situations, our brains tend to react by searching for potential threats, even when there's nothing to worry about. This is a natural response of the body, a way to keep us alert to potential dangers. However, the problem arises when we begin to cling to these worries and let them dominate our daily lives. When a person feels they cannot control their life, they try to work harder, worry more, or even ignore signs from their body like fatigue or stress, just to alleviate the sense of unease. But the truth is, the more we do this, the more we create barriers within ourselves, making our minds weary and drained. The Buddha taught that to overcome these invisible anxieties, we need to return to ourselves, and one of the simplest but most effective ways is to listen to our breath. The breath is the rhythm of life, and it is the breath that helps us return to the present, quieting the mind and releasing anxious thoughts. Try a simple exercise. Spend a few minutes each day sitting quietly and listening to your breath. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and focus entirely on the sensation of the air entering and leaving your body. You will feel a change in your mood. The anxieties, the chaotic thoughts gradually fade away, and in their place, a sense of peace emerges. When we know how to listen to our bodies, we will realize that peace is always present in every moment, as long as we stop and let our minds relax. A story I really like is about an old monk. One day, a young man came to meet the monk and shared his anxieties and worries. The monk smiled and said, "You don't need to worry about things that have not come. Imagine that you are carrying a bag full of stones. Each stone is a worry, a fear. If you keep picking up stones and putting them in the bag will become heavier. But if you let go of those stones, the bag will become lighter." The young man thought for a while and then asked, "But how can I let go of the stones?" The monk replied, "You must know that not everything you worry about is the truth. Worry is a thought, a feeling, but not a reality. Learn to recognize and let go of them." Worry has no clear form, but it has the power to dominate our minds. However, we can learn to accept its presence without letting it take over our lives. Remember that worrying about the future is just a part of the journey of life, and it does not define who you are. When you learn to let go of those invisible anxieties, you will find peace within yourself. Just like invisible winds, worry can pass by, but if we don't cling to it, it will soon dissipate. Live fully with what the present brings, because that is the only place where we can find peace. Everyone has their own burdens to carry, whether it's work, family, or social responsibilities. But there is another type of burden, one that cannot be seen with the eyes, yet it always haunts and weighs down the soul. The burdens from attachment and worry. We constantly worry about things that haven't happened, or try to hold on to things that are gone, and these emotions make our souls feel tired and heavy. The Buddha taught that only when we know how to let go of attachment and worry can we find true peace. So, how can we lighten our hearts so that our souls are no longer weighed down by things that cannot be changed? Tai is a close friend of mine. He always works very hard and strives to do his best in everything. However, Tai has something that many of us can easily recognize: excessive worry and attachment. Tai is always afraid of the future, afraid he won't succeed, afraid he will lose precious things in life. At the same time, he cannot easily let go of past mistakes, always carrying regrets and remorse in his heart. One time, Tai shared with me that he felt tired and stressed because he couldn't stop worrying about work. He feared that one day he would fail, not accomplish the goals he set. and would face disappointment from his loved ones and colleagues. Moreover, every time he remembered past mistakes, decisions he felt were wrong, he felt a heaviness in his heart. "I can't escape these thoughts. They circle around in my head every day," Tai said, his eyes full of anxiety. When I heard Tai's story, I felt an indescribable pain. He had carried invisible burdens, from worries about the future and regrets about the past. These burdens couldn't be seen, but they weighed on his soul, preventing him from living in the present. Attachment, according to Buddhist philosophy, is the excessive attachment to things that cannot be changed, things that are in the past, or desires about the future. This attachment not only makes us physically tired, but also prevents our souls from relaxing. Every time we cling to the past, to pain, failures, or unmet expectations, we cannot experience the freedom and peace of the present. It's like someone always carrying a heavy backpack filled with unnecessary items, things they can't let go of. They continue to carry the backpack, even though it's no longer needed, and feel tired when they move. Attachment is like that backpack. It makes us feel heavy, exhausted, and prevents us from continuing life's journey lightly. Worry is a natural part of life, but when it becomes an inseparable part of each day, it becomes a burden. Worrying about the future, about things that haven't happened, prevents us from living fully in the present. Some days, we wake up with a sense of invisible fear, worrying about work, relationships, health, or what lies ahead in the future. These anxieties may not have a clear foundation, but they still appear in our minds, like dark clouds covering our sky. A story I heard from a friend recently is worth reflecting on. She shared about a time she went on a long business trip, and throughout the trip, she always worried about whether everything at home would go smoothly, whether something would happen while she was not there to resolve it. She couldn't feel peace during her trip, even though she was surrounded by beautiful scenery and new experiences. She only thought about what might happen, and her mind was constantly filled with worry, like a cloud that couldn't dissipate. The Buddha taught that worry about the future is just thoughts in the mind, not reality. The future is always unpredictable, and worrying about it only makes us more tired without changing anything. Live fully in the present, embracing what comes without worrying about what hasn't come yet. One of the profound teachings of the Buddha is act in the present, let go of the past, and do not worry about the future. When we accept that life is always changing and that there are things we cannot control, we will feel lighter. Peace comes when we no longer cling to the past or worry about the future. How can we let go of these burdens? One of the simplest and most effective ways is to practice meditation. Meditation helps us return to the present, making us more aware of our emotions and thoughts. When we sit quietly and focus solely on our breath, we can feel peace in every moment. This does not mean we don't have responsibilities or don't care about the future, but we learn not to let worries take over our souls. We often forget that peace can be found in every moment, in the simple things in life. To find peace, we don't need to search far. We only need to return to ourselves, slow down a little, and feel what is happening in the present. Small joys, like a quiet morning, a fragrant cup of tea, or a gentle conversation with a loved one, can bring peace to the soul. With all the worries and burdens we create for ourselves, sometimes the soul becomes tired and exhausted. However, only when we learn to let go of attachment and worry can we live lightly and peacefully. Peace is not something distant, but a part of the present life, a gift that we can receive at any time. Learn to let go of invisible burdens so that life becomes lighter and the soul becomes free. In every family, love is the bond that brings everyone together. The love between parents and children, the love between siblings, and the love between life partners, all are priceless, bringing joy and warmth to every home. However, love sometimes also comes with worries, especially when we see our loved ones, especially our children, facing difficulties and challenges in life. Worrying about the future of our children, about the choices they will make, about the troubles they might encounter. All these worries often prevent us from feeling at ease, even though we know that love is enough to build a strong foundation. The love for children is the most noble emotion in life, but sometimes this love makes us feel a burden in our hearts. We love our children, but we also worry incessantly about their future, about things we cannot control. How can we love without worrying too much? How can we respect the freedom and growth of our children without losing the protection of being parents? Lan is a mother I've known for many years. She has a son named Min, a diligent and intelligent child. Since Min was young, she has poured all her energy into caring for and educating him. She hopes Min will have a bright future, that he will be able to stand strong in life. However, a great worry always weighs on her. Her concern for Min's future. She is always worried about which field Min will choose to study, whether he will be suited for the careers she hopes for, and whether he will face difficulties in life later on. Every time Min encounters a challenge in his studies or relationships, Lan falls into a state of anxiety, her mind restless. She can't stop thinking about the worst that could happen. Even though Min is always trying his best, she worries not because her son lacks love or support, but because she fears that Min will not be strong enough to overcome difficulties, fearing that he will have to endure failures that she cannot protect him from. One time, when Min entered university, Lan sat in her room and cried, not for any specific reason, but simply because she felt the heavy worry about her child's future weighing on her heart. He grows up every day, but I can't stop worrying. Will he be able to overcome the challenges in life? Will I be able to help him face the difficulties he will encounter? She sobbed. Lan's story is not uncommon. The love and worry parents have for their children is an inseparable part of family life. As we watch our children grow up, we feel the changes in each of their steps. From the first steps to the steady strides in life, we are always there, silently observing and worrying. Though we know that children need to be independent, need to face life on their own, we still can't help but worry for them. The Buddha taught that love is not possession or control, but letting go and acceptance. As parents, we have the responsibility to care for and protect our children, but we cannot control everything that happens in their lives. We can only love and support, but we cannot live their lives for them. Worrying about our children is not wrong. It is a natural part of love. When we love someone, especially our children, we always want the best for them. However, worrying about their future can become a burden when we cling to things we cannot control. We worry about every step they take, every decision they make, but we forget that each person, each child, has their own journey. When we worry excessively, we not only make ourselves tired, but also unintentionally put pressure on our children. Children can sense the worry and fear from their parents, and sometimes that makes them feel insecure when facing the world. If we don't let go of these invisible worries, we cannot help our children become independent and strong in life. How can we love without worrying? The answer is not to stop loving, but to learn how to let go of unnecessary control and worry. The Buddha taught that love is letting go. Letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility or affection, but accepting that each person has their own path. Children are not the property of their parents, but independent individuals who have the right and ability to control their own lives. One of the ways to let go of worry is to practice mindfulness. When we learn to live in each present moment, we will realize that the worries about the future are just unreal thoughts. Children will grow and learn through their own experiences. And what matters is that we are always there for them, loving and supporting them without interfering too much in their lives. A mother once sat by her child's bed in his final moments. She looked at her grown-up son and said, "My dear, I have spent my life protecting you, but now I realize that you don't need to live the way I planned for you. I just want you to live happily, to live true to yourself. I will always be by your side, but you must learn to stand on your own. I can't live your life for you, but I will always be behind you, loving and supporting you." That was a loving and profound message. True love is not about control, but about freedom, allowing children to live true to themselves, to experience life and learn from their own failures and successes. A parent's love for their children is a priceless source of encouragement. But when we know how to let go of worry, we create space for our children to develop and grow freely and strongly. A parent's love for their children is an important part of family life. But we also need to remember that worry and attachment only make us and our children feel exhausted. Love your children by accepting and trusting in their abilities, so they can walk their own path with unconditional support and love from us. Letting go of worry and attachment does not mean not caring, but allowing children to develop and learn from their own lives. No one can avoid pain, hurt, or worry. Everyone carries wounds from the past, fears about the future. Some pain cannot be seen with the eyes, but it silently exists in the heart, affecting moods, emotions, and decisions in life. These wounds may be sadness from loss, the pain of failure, or hurt from broken relationships. However, the Buddha taught that the healing process begins with letting go of those worries and pains. Only when we let go can the soul heal and find peace. I have a friend named Min, a strong and intelligent man. Min had a stable job and a happy family. However, everything changed when he experienced a major event in his life, a huge emotional shock. His wife decided to leave him after a long period of unresolved issues in their relationship. Despite his efforts to save the relationship, Min ultimately had to accept the separation. That past left Min with a great wound. He always felt pain and hurt whenever he thought about his ex-wife, the beautiful moments they had, and the promises that now only remain as painful memories. Moreover, he constantly worried about the future, whether he could find love again, what life would be like moving forward, whether he would be strong enough to overcome this pain. Min's story is the story of many of us. Past wounds can haunt and control us, preventing us from living fully in the present. Min lives in a world full of anxiety about the future, full of doubts and fears. He cannot move forward in life because his soul is always weighed down by painful memories. The Buddha taught that to heal the soul, we need to let go of the worries and pain within. Letting go does not mean forgetting or completely abandoning, but it means allowing them not to dominate our minds and lives. Letting go is accepting that there are things that cannot be changed, and instead of holding on to what has passed, we should live fully with what we have now. Min began his healing journey by learning how to let go. He realized that if he kept clinging to the past, he could never find peace in the present. Although the emotional wounds could not heal immediately, Min learned to accept the pain and allowed himself to live with his emotions without letting them dominate too much. One morning, Min decided to take a walk in the park to relax. As he walked along the tree-lined paths, he realized that he no longer felt as heavy as before. He began to focus on each step, on his breath, and suddenly he felt a gentleness, a peace beginning to fill his heart. Min understood that healing is not a quick process, but a long journey, beginning with small steps. These steps are not about running away from the pain, but about learning to live with it, not letting it control his soul. He realized that pain would not disappear if he kept clinging to it, but when he learned to relax, to accept, his soul gradually became lighter. Anxiety is one of the major causes preventing us from healing. Worries about the future, fears of things that haven't happened yet, make it impossible for our souls to be at peace. The Buddha taught that worry is an unreal thought. It only exists in our minds. These worries don't help us change the future. They only make us more tired. Imagine that you are carrying a heavy backpack filled with unnecessary items, and every day you keep carrying this backpack without ever stopping. This backpack could be filled with worries, sad memories, and fears about the future. If you don't know how to put down that backpack, you will always feel tired and unable to move forward. But when you realize that this backpack is not an essential part of your life, you will learn how to relax and let it go. At that moment, you will feel lighter and your soul will be free. Letting go of anxiety does not mean you no longer care about the future, but that you do not allow the fear of the future to dominate your present life. The healing process is not a journey to find happiness, but a journey of learning how to live fully in each present moment. When we let go of worries and pain, we open up a vast space to feel the peace within ourselves. Just like a river, when the water is no longer blocked by stones, sand, or waste, it will flow freely and smoothly. The soul is the same. When we let go of the barriers inside, the worries, the pain, we will feel freedom and peace. There is a story I always remember about a man who sought advice from a monk. He said, "Master, I feel my mind is always in turmoil, always worrying about things that haven't happened yet. I cannot live in peace." The monk gently replied, "Can you hear the wind, the birds, and the rustling of the leaves? That is the sound of peace. Once you let go of the anxious thoughts in your head, you will hear the sound of peace in your soul." That is the message the Buddha taught. Peace is not something distant, but it is the stillness in every present moment. When we let go of worries and pain, we will find peace within ourselves. Healing is not a destination, but a journey. A journey that begins by letting go of the worries, the pain that have prevented us from living fully in the present. When we learn to let go, when we accept that not everything can be controlled, our souls will be free. And that is the healing process, a process that helps us return to ourselves, find peace and happiness in the simple moments of life. Each of us carries wounds, memories of hurt and disappointment from others. Sometimes these wounds are deep, causing us to carry persistent sadness in our hearts. These wounds may be from unkind words, thoughtless actions, or simply silences we cannot understand. However, one of the paths to healing is practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness is not erasing the mistakes of others, but liberating ourselves from the burden of resentment. Forgiveness is the way we realize that love is not control, but acceptance and freedom for others to be themselves. When we let go of the grudges in our hearts, when we learn to forgive, we will realize that it is ourselves who are set free, who are liberated. Sister Lan is a woman I deeply respect. She has a daughter named Min An, a well-behaved and gentle girl. However, their relationship is complex, filled with cracks, and this is not uncommon in families. Sister Lan always feels that Min An is not mature enough, not grown enough to take care of herself. And because of that, she always tries to control every action of her daughter. When Min An decided to choose a field of study that was not what her mother had hoped for, Sister Lan felt hurt. She always feared that her daughter would not succeed in that path, that Min An's choice was a mistake. This made Sister Lan become stubborn and forced her daughter to follow paths she believed were right. The two of them started having arguments, tense exchanges, and tears. Sister Lan loves her daughter, but that love turned into control because she thought she knew what was best for her. In her heart, that love was not freedom, but domination. She could not realize that true love is giving without conditions. It is accepting and trusting in the path of the other person. One day, in a conversation, Sister Lan talked about the hurt she felt when Min An did not listen to her. "I just want you to be happy, but why don't you understand? I don't want you to fail," she said with tears in her eyes. Min An was silent, her eyes also filled with tears. She had heard these words from her mother throughout her childhood, but the differences between them grew over the years. To understand more about love and control, I recall a Buddhist story. The Buddha once taught, true love is not possession, but freedom. When we love someone, we cannot force them to live according to our wishes, because each person has their own path, their own dreams, and their own way of seeing life. True love is when we accept the other person without needing to change or control them. Control in love sometimes comes from fear. Fear that the other person will go wrong. Fear that they will fail. Fear that they won't be able to take care of themselves. However, when we control too much, we not only hurt the other person, but also hurt ourselves. We create a suffocating environment that makes the other person feel they cannot be free. They cannot be themselves. Sister Lan understood that love for children is not about forcing, but about respect. She began to learn how to let go of control and replace it with trust. A parent can help, can guide, but the child must walk their own path, even if that path is full of challenges. She realized that if she couldn't allow Minan to be independent, her daughter would never be able to grow and trust her own decisions. Forgiveness is not just for others, but also for ourselves. When we hold on to resentment in our hearts, we are carrying an invisible burden. Unforgiven pain will occupy our minds, preventing us from experiencing peace. But when we forgive, it is not to make the other person feel better, but to free ourselves from the weight of resentment. When Sister Lan decided to forgive herself and her daughter, she not only freed herself from worries and pressure, but also opened a space for true love to grow. She understood that controlling her relationship with Min-an only made it tense and difficult, while forgiveness helped her feel freedom in her heart. She no longer felt she had to force her child to follow a path she thought was right. Instead, she learned to love and accept her child as she was. Forgiveness is a long journey, not something that can be done overnight. It requires patience, acceptance, and a deep understanding of the nature of love. When we forgive, we are no longer bound by the past. Forgiveness is the way we stop being affected by the hurts others have caused us. It is the way we open our hearts to welcome the better things in life. Forgiveness also helps us reflect on ourselves. Perhaps we have made mistakes, made wrong decisions, but instead of tormenting ourselves, we can learn to forgive ourselves to move forward. When we forgive, we no longer have to live in regret or fear. We live in freedom, in the peace of a heart no longer burdened by anger or resentment. Love is not about control, but about freedom. Love is when we allow others to be themselves, when we accept them with all that they are. And to truly love, we must learn to forgive, both others and ourselves. Forgiveness is not easy, but when we practice forgiveness, we will find peace within ourselves. Love is not possession, but giving without conditions, acceptance without needing change. When we let go of worries, resentment, and control, we open up space for true love to develop. And then life becomes lighter, brighter, because we have learned how to love and live in freedom. Sometimes we feel that we are not truly living for ourselves, but living for the expectations of others. It could be the expectations of parents, teachers, friends, or even society. We are busy chasing goals that were not chosen by ourselves, but are desires and expectations placed upon us by others. But this very thing makes us feel incomplete, unhappy, and sometimes even lose ourselves. The Buddha taught that in order to live a peaceful and fulfilling life, we need to live in the present, not letting the expectations of others or the past control our lives. Living in the present means living with ourselves, living according to the values we find, instead of being caught up in what others expect. When we do this, we will find freedom, happiness, and peace in our hearts. I have a friend named Tuan, who is the eldest son in his family. Since he was young, Tuan was always expected a lot by his parents. They wanted Tuan to become a talented doctor, have a stable career, and be able to care for the family later on. These expectations were instilled in Tuan since he was very young, and he always felt he had to meet these standards to avoid disappointing his parents. Tuan is an intelligent person and studies very well. However, he doesn't truly love medicine. He always felt tired with the expectations his parents placed on him. Although he loved music and wanted to pursue a creative path, because of his parents' expectations, he chose to study medicine, even though he was torn inside. Whenever he saw his friends in music class freely expressing their passion, Tuan felt a deep sadness. He couldn't understand why he had to live a life not of his own choosing. Every day he tried to study well, complete his assignments, but never felt happy or satisfied with what he was doing. One day, while sitting alone in the classroom, Tuan suddenly remembered a time when his parents had told him, "You must study well, succeed in your career, so you can care for the family and live a stable life." At that moment, Tuan felt he had no choice but to follow what his parents wanted. But an uneasy feeling lingered in his heart. He no longer knew what he truly wanted. Tuan's story is not uncommon. Most of us, whether in the family, work, or relationships, have at least once felt that we are living according to the expectations of others instead of living for ourselves. We always feel we must fulfill goals set by others, regardless of our own feelings and desires. Sometimes we don't realize that these expectations can be invisible burdens, weighing down our souls. When we live too much for the expectations of others, we forget our own dreams, passions, and true desires. And gradually, we lose ourselves, becoming someone who lives without freedom, without the ability to choose for ourselves. The Buddha taught that when we live in the present, without letting the past or others' expectations control our lives, we will find peace in our hearts. Living in the present means not clinging to unrealistic desires, not living in fear of the future, but living fully with what we have in each moment. Tuan took a long time to realize that he could not live forever according to the expectations of others. He learned to accept that he didn't always have to do what others wanted, but he also needed to live in his own way. One day, after a long day of studying, Tuan sat down and asked himself, "What do I really want?" He no longer wanted to live in fear of pleasing his parents or others around him. He decided that he had to rediscover his passion, even if it didn't align with his parents' expectations. Tuan started spending his free evenings studying music. He found joy in playing the guitar and composing music again. Although it wasn't easy, he realized that he had forgotten an important part of his life, living for himself. When he pursued his passion, he no longer felt pressure from external expectations, and instead, he felt freedom, comfort in his own choices. Living in the present is living with yourself, listening to your true emotions and needs. We cannot change what has passed, nor can we predict what will happen in the future. The only thing we can do is live fully with what we have right now. The Buddha taught that when we let go of worries about the past and the future, our soul will be free. We will no longer be controlled by the expectations of others or the fears in our hearts. Only then can we feel peace, stillness, and harmony in life. Try a simple exercise every day. Take a few minutes to sit still, do nothing, and just listen to your own breath. This is a way to return to yourself, live in the present, and not be swept away by thoughts of the past or worries about the future. When we live fully in the present, everything becomes clearer, and we will find the path we truly want to take. Love is not about control or force, but about acceptance and respect. When we love, we should not want to change the other person to fit our own way. True love is when we respect the freedom of the other person, when we let them live with their own dreams and aspirations. In relationships with family, friends, or in love, love is companionship, sharing, and respecting each other's choices. If we cannot accept the choices of others, we will create tension, and we too will feel unhappy. Life is a long and difficult journey, but if we learn to live in the present, live with ourselves, and not be swept away by the expectations of others, we will find peace in our hearts. Listen to your own emotions. Live by the values you believe in. And do not fear making decisions for your own life. When you live true to yourself, life becomes lighter, and you will feel freedom, happiness, and peace. Remember that love is acceptance and freedom, and this freedom starts with you. Live for yourself, because only when you live true to yourself can you live fully and bring happiness to yourself and those around you. We are easily swept up in the flow of work, worries, and endless competition. Sometimes we forget to take time to listen to ourselves, to feel the deep emotions in our hearts, to understand what we truly want. The Buddha taught that living mindfully and understanding oneself is one of the most important paths to achieving true peace and happiness. Mindfulness is not just a mental state, but a deep awareness of oneself, of the world around us, and of how we interact with everything. Living mindfully means living in each present moment, not letting the past or the future blur the clarity of our minds. And understanding ourselves is the first step toward finding the path that truly brings peace and happiness. When we understand ourselves, we are no longer swept away by emotions or endless worries that society or circumstances bring. I have a friend named Min. Min is a smart, passionate person who always strives to accomplish every goal he sets. However, for many years, Min has always felt that he was not truly happy, even though his work was very successful, even though he had a happy family, and even though he was always praised for his achievements in life. He felt like a boat constantly being carried along by the current, but not knowing where he was going. One time, in a conversation with me, Min admitted that he felt tired. He had done everything society expected, but he didn't feel like he was living fully. Min said, "I have everything that everyone wants, but I don't feel truly happy. I keep chasing goals, but I don't know what my goals are." I looked at Min and sensed the worry in his eyes, the confusion he couldn't explain. The Buddha taught that to live in peace and happiness, we need to live mindfully, not letting our minds be swept away by meaningless worries. Mindfulness is not only about paying attention to what is happening around us, but also about deeply understanding ourselves, our emotions, and the thoughts we are experiencing. When we live mindfully, we can recognize our emotions, thoughts, and actions without being controlled by them. Min started learning to live mindfully by spending a little time each day sitting still and listening to himself. He didn't try to change anything, just simply observed his thoughts and emotions without judgment. At first, he found it very difficult. The chaotic thoughts kept coming up, and he couldn't focus on himself. But gradually, Min realized that stopping and listening was an important step in understanding himself. One day while meditating, Min suddenly realized that everything he had been doing was just chasing the expectations of others. He didn't truly know what he wanted, didn't truly understand what he needed. He realized that even though his work was very successful, his heart always felt empty because he had never really listened to himself, never asked himself, "What do I really want in this life?" Living mindfully is living in the present, not letting thoughts about the past or worries about the future dominate our minds. When we don't live in the present, we will always feel like we are never enough. We will constantly worry about things that haven't happened, uncertain events, and overlook the beautiful things that are right in front of us. Imagine someone sitting in a cafe, but their mind is elsewhere. They don't really savor the taste of the coffee, don't feel the surrounding space, and only think about work, the future, or the worries in life. When we don't live in the present, we miss important moments in life. The Buddha taught that living in the present helps us find peace. When we focus only on what is happening right before our eyes, without worrying about the past or the future, we will feel peace in our hearts. Worries and thoughts about things that haven't happened yet, or things from the past, will fade away when we live fully in the present. Understanding oneself is the first step to living mindfully. When we truly understand what we want, we will know how to take control of our lives. Min began his journey of self-understanding by asking himself, what do I truly want? What am I living for? When Min listened to the answers within himself, he realized that what he truly needed was peace and joy in each present moment, not the success and fame that society expected. When we understand ourselves, we will no longer live for the expectations of others. We will know how to choose our own path, pursue our dreams, and live the life we truly desire. In fact, not every one of us can immediately know what we truly want. But when we start living mindfully and listening to ourselves, we will gradually realize what we need and what makes us happy. Min began to find peace in his heart when he decided to live true to himself. He no longer tried to live up to the expectations of others, but began to pursue his passion for music, even though he knew it wasn't an easy path. He learned to let go of worries about the future, no longer worrying about whether he would succeed. Instead, Min simply lived in each moment, enjoying every sound and every note he played. He found joy in the journey he was on, not in the destination. When Min lived fully with himself, he felt his soul lighter, more peaceful. He realized that life is not about what others expect from him, but about what we find in our own hearts. Living mindfully and understanding oneself are two essential factors in the journey to find peace and happiness. When we know how to listen to ourselves, when we live in the present without letting worries or expectations dominate, we will find freedom in our souls. Only when we live true to ourselves can we live fully, find joy, and experience peace in this life. Start this journey by taking a moment to stop, listen to yourself, and live fully with what is happening right before your eyes. In the journey of life, one of the most important things we can do is learn to love ourselves. However, we don't always realize that this love must begin from within, from our own soul and body. Love is not only about caring for and looking after others, but also about caring for and nurturing ourselves. But it is not easy to love oneself, especially in a society full of pressure and expectations. Many times, we may love others, sacrifice for our family and friends, but forget about ourselves. Sometimes worries, endless concerns, and constant expectations weigh heavily on us, making us feel not good enough, undeserving of love. The Buddha taught that to live a peaceful life, we need to learn to let go of unnecessary worries and love ourselves. Only when we can do this can we bring peace and love to others. Sister Ha is a wonderful mother. She dedicates all her energy and time to taking care of her family, looking after her husband and children, and is always ready to sacrifice everything for them. She never stops working, never stops thinking about the needs of those around her, but forgets that she too needs to be cared for, needs to be loved. Every day, Sister Ha spends the entire day taking care of her children's studies, cooking, cleaning the house, and managing everything. As her children grow, she continues to care for them, trying to help them achieve their goals in life. But she forgets her own dreams, her own needs. She has never thought about taking time for herself, to rest, or to do things she loves. One day, when sitting and chatting with me, she sighed and said, "I always care for everyone, but I don't care for myself. I've forgotten about myself." Her voice was filled with sadness, and I could feel the deep exhaustion in her eyes. Sister Ha had forgotten that loving herself is not something distant, but about caring for her soul, listening to her body, and allowing herself to rest. The Buddha taught that loving oneself is one of the important foundations for living peacefully. When we love ourselves, we not only give ourselves kind words and caring actions, but also know how to care for our body and soul. Love is not only about giving, but also about receiving. When we understand our own worth, we will no longer let worries and external pressures dominate our lives. Self-love is also acceptance. accepting that we are not perfect, that we make mistakes, and that nothing lasts forever. When we accept our weaknesses and flaws, we no longer feel inferior or suffer from those shortcomings. We learn to live in harmony with ourselves, love ourselves, and have confidence in what we have. I remember once traveling with a close friend. We went to a peaceful countryside with thatched houses, small roads, and fresh air. During the trip, my friend constantly checked her phone, worrying about work and unresolved issues. Every time we went for a walk, she was concerned about unanswered emails, missed calls, and unfinished tasks. I looked at her and said, "You know, sometimes we need to stop so our body and mind can rest. Don't let work and worries control everything." We sat by the river, watching the birds fly and feeling the peaceful atmosphere. After a while, my friend sighed and said, "I've never taken time to rest like this. I always thought that working constantly is how I show love for my family, but actually, I forgot that I need to love myself." That was a moment when I could feel the relief in my friend's heart. She had learned to let go of worries and find peace within herself. We often worry about things that haven't happened, about unfinished tasks, about future events with no guarantees. Worry is a part of life, but when we let these worries dominate our minds, we lose our peace. Sometimes we forget that letting go of unnecessary concerns is the way to love ourselves. The Buddha taught that letting go does not mean giving up or neglecting responsibility, but allowing our hearts to be free, not controlled by things we cannot control. When we let go of worry, we no longer feel pressure or fear about things that haven't happened. We only need to live in the present, do what we love, take care of ourselves, and allow our souls to rest. One way to love ourselves is to listen to our body and soul. We cannot love ourselves if we don't know what we truly need. Sometimes, something as simple as sitting down and asking ourselves, "What do I want?" can help us realize the important things in life. Listening to ourselves not only helps us understand our body's basic needs, but also helps us recognize the emotions hiding within us. When we listen to our body and soul, we will realize that we don't need to live according to others' expectations. We don't need to chase goals that are not our own. We need to be loved, to rest, and to be cared for so we can continue our journey in life. Learning to love ourselves and letting go of unnecessary worries is an important journey in finding peace and happiness. When we know how to love ourselves, we no longer feel weighed down by the pressures and expectations of others. This love will be the motivation for us to live fully, to live in each present moment, and no longer worry about things that haven't happened. Loving ourselves is when we understand that we deserve rest, care, and love. When we learn to love ourselves, we can love others fully and unconditionally. Because when we feel peace and happiness from within, we will bring peace and happiness to those around us. We meet many people, but only a few will become true friends. These true friends are not only with us in happy times, but also stand by us during difficult and challenging moments. The Buddha taught that in life, besides family, genuine friendship is one of the most important relationships to nurture the soul, helping us live peacefully and happily. True friendship is not just sharing joy, but also empathy, understanding, and support in the most difficult moments of life. I have a friend named An, and the story of our friendship is a profound lesson about the importance of true friendship. This story is not just about a friendship, but about the connection between people in life, about how we find peace in authentic relationships. Anne is a friend I met during my university years. At first, we were just ordinary classmates, meeting in class and participating in group activities together. But gradually, our friendship grew closer. Anne is always a good listener, always willing to share and help when I face difficulties. She is also the friend who doesn't hesitate to help me reflect on my thoughts and emotions honestly and directly. One time, when I faced a difficult decision in life, I didn't know what to do. My mind was in turmoil, and I felt like I couldn't escape the situation. I called on, and she simply said, "I understand how you feel, but I know that no matter what decision you make, you will find your way." Her words were not just comfort, but also understanding and trust in me. Our friendship is not always sweet, but it is always sincere. We may argue, we may disagree, but after each time, we understand each other more, and never judges me, and this makes me truly grateful. She is always the one who helps me see the hidden corners of my soul, and that's something I can't find in anyone else. Every time I face difficulty, Anne is the one I turn to, not because she will solve all my problems, but because she helps me feel that I am not alone. True friendship is not about beautiful words or temporary actions. It is a true bond that comes from mutual understanding and respect. True friendship is when you can share the deepest things in your heart without fear of judgment or betrayal. It is when you can cry and laugh together, when you don't need to hide anything. The Buddha taught that in life, besides family love, friendship is one of the most important relationships to nurture the soul, helping us live in peace and happiness. True friendship is not only about sharing joy, but also about empathy, understanding, and supporting each other in the most difficult moments of life. I have a friend named Anne, and the story of our friendship is a profound lesson about the importance of true friendship. This story is not just about a friendship, but about the connection between people in life, about how we find peace in authentic relationships. Anne is a friend I met during my university years. At first, we were just ordinary classmates, meeting in class and participating in group activities together. But gradually, our friendship grew closer. Anne is always a good listener, always willing to share and help when I face difficulties. She is also the friend who doesn't hesitate to help me reflect on my thoughts and emotions honestly and directly. One time, when I faced a difficult decision in life, I didn't know what to do. My mind was in turmoil, and I felt like I couldn't escape the situation. I called on, and she simply said, "I understand how you feel, but I know that no matter what decision you make, you will find your way." Her words were not just comfort, but also understanding and trust in me. Our friendship is a clear example of the importance of true friendship. Throughout the years, we have not only been friends, but also people who understand each other, who share each other's joys and sorrows. Our friendship is not a temporary help, but a lasting bond based on trust and respect. True friendship can be the flame that warms our soul on cold winter nights. It not only helps us overcome difficulties, but also helps us see ourselves, rediscover our faith in life. True friends are the ones who are always there when we need them, the ones who show us that we are not alone in this world. They share our joys, our sorrows, and help us see the greater values in life. The Buddha taught that true friendship is one of the precious relationships we should cherish. Friendship is not only about sharing in good times, but also supporting each other during difficult times. When we have true friends, we will feel that life truly has meaning, and we will never have to face life alone. We may have many friends, but true friends will always be the most important. Friendship is not about empty words or promises, but about presence, empathy, help, and sharing. True friendship helps us overcome all challenges and helps us understand that we never have to go through life alone. As I have learned from my friendship with Anne, the importance of true friendship cannot be measured in words, but it is a priceless source of motivation that helps us live better and more firmly in life. Therefore, cherish the true friends by your side, because they are the ones who help us grow, help us find joy and peace in life. In today's busy life, we often forget that true peace and happiness are not distant things, but can appear in the simplest moments. Every day, we race against time with work, with society's expectations, and our own worries. Sometimes, in this busy life, we forget one important thing: True happiness is not about achieving everything we want, but about knowing enough and living fully with what we have. The Buddha taught that peace comes from within, from accepting life as it is, from knowing enough with what we have, and living fully in each present moment. When we understand that happiness is not something we can find out there, but is peace within our own hearts, we will find true peace. I have a friend named Lan, a woman I greatly respect. She is always busy with work, taking care of the family, and worrying about those around her. She is very successful in her work and has a happy family. But many times I realize that, although everything seems perfect, Lan always feels something is missing. She always thinks that when she achieves more, when she has everything she wants, when her work becomes more stable, and when her children grow up, then she will truly be happy. One day, while chatting with her, she shared a sentence I will never forget. I feel like I'm racing against time, always feeling like something is missing, always thinking I need to do more, achieve more. I realized that, although she has everything that people consider success, her heart still doesn't feel complete. Lan had forgotten that happiness is not a destination, but a process of living fully in each moment. We often tend to think that happiness is about big things, a perfect job, a beautiful house, a happy family, or a certain success. But in reality, happiness comes from simple things, from accepting what we have, and from knowing enough. The Buddha taught that peace does not come from how much we have, but from being able to live fully with what we already have. One morning when I woke up, I decided to take a little time to meditate. In those moments, I didn't need to do anything special, just listen to the sound of my breath, feel the presence of my body, and simply live fully in that moment. I realized that, in that stillness, I lacked nothing. I had enough: a healthy body, a peaceful mind, and a world full of beautiful things I could feel and love. We often think that we need to have so many things to be happy. But when we stop and really feel, we will realize that what we have in the present is enough. Love, peace in each breath, joy in simple moments like watching the sunrise, or feeling a gentle breeze blowing through our skin. All of this brings peace and happiness without needing anything more. Knowing enough doesn't mean giving up dreams or stopping efforts, but recognizing that what we have is enough to live a happy life. Knowing enough is when we don't compare ourselves to others, don't measure our self-worth by the successes or material things we achieve. Knowing enough is when we live fully with what we have in each present moment, instead of constantly worrying about the past or fearing the future. I remember one time, I was walking in the park with a close friend. She had just received a new job and was very excited, but she was also worried about whether she would perform well. I asked her, "So if things don't go as expected, can you accept it happily?" She hesitated and then said, "I want to do well, but I'm worried if I'm good enough." I told her, happiness isn't about achieving everything you want. It's about living fully with what you have right now, regardless of the outcome. Only when we realize that we have enough can we feel peace in our hearts. We often live with worries about the future or regrets about the past. But when we learn to accept what is happening in the present, we will feel peace in our hearts. Every moment is an opportunity for us to live fully, to feel the fullness of life. Try to take a minute each day to listen to your breath, to feel the presence of your body, and realize that right in that moment, you have enough. I once heard a small story about a person searching for happiness. This person traveled everywhere, looking for happiness in work, money, and relationships. But after a long time, he realized that happiness is not something you can find far away. It lies within yourself, in the simple moments we often overlook. Happiness is the appreciation of what we already have, not the desire for what hasn't come. Living fully is living with gratitude and acceptance. Every day, we have the opportunity to live fully, to love what we have, and to feel what is around us. Sometimes, A simple act like enjoying a good meal, watching the blue sky, or feeling your own breath is enough to bring peace to your heart. How to live fully. It is knowing how to let go of worries about the future, knowing how not to compare yourself with others, and most importantly, knowing how to feel the fullness in each moment. When we realize that we have enough, that what we have is precious and worth cherishing, we will live a complete life, no longer feeling lacking, no longer worrying about what has not yet come. I have a friend named Lan, a woman I deeply respect. Lan is someone who is always busy with work, taking care of her family, and worrying about those around her. She is very successful in her work and has a happy family, but many times I realize that, despite everything seeming perfect, Lan always feels like something is missing. She always thinks that when she achieves more, when she has everything she wants, when her work becomes more stable, and when her children grow up, then she will truly be happy. One day, while chatting with her, she shared a sentence I will never forget. I feel like I'm racing against time, always feeling like something is missing, always thinking I need to do more, achieve more. I realized that even though she has everything that people consider success, her heart still doesn't feel complete. Lan had forgotten that happiness is not a destination, but a process of living fully in each moment. We often tend to think that happiness is about big things, a perfect job, a beautiful house, a happy family, or a certain success. But in reality, happiness comes from simple things, from accepting what we have and from knowing enough. The Buddha taught that peace does not come from how much we have, but from being able to live fully with what we already have. One morning, when I woke up, I decided to take a little time to meditate. In those moments, I didn't need to do anything special, just listen to the sound of my breath, feel the presence of my body, and simply live fully in that moment. I realized that, in that stillness, I lacked nothing. I had enough: a healthy body, a peaceful mind, and a world full of beautiful things I could feel and love. We often think that we need to have so many things to be happy. But when we stop and really feel, we will realize that what we have in the present is enough. Love, peace in each breath, joy in simple moments like watching the sunrise or feeling a gentle breeze blowing through our skin. All of this brings peace and happiness without needing anything more. Knowing enough doesn't mean giving up dreams or stopping efforts, but recognizing that what we have is enough to live a happy life. Knowing enough is when we don't compare ourselves to others, don't measure our self-worth by the successes or material things we achieve. Knowing enough is when we live fully with what we have in each present moment, instead of constantly worrying about the past or fearing the future. I remember one time, I was walking in the park with a close friend. She had just received a new job and was very excited, but she was also worried about whether she would perform well. I asked her, "So if things don't go as expected, can you accept it happily?" She hesitated and then said, "I want to do well, but I'm worried if I'm good enough." I told her, "Happiness isn't about achieving everything you want. It's about living fully with what you have right now, regardless of the outcome. Only when we realize that we have enough can we feel peace in our hearts." We often live with worries about the future or regrets about the past. But when we learn to accept what is happening in the present, we will feel peace in our hearts. Every moment is an opportunity for us to live fully, to feel the fullness of life. Try to take a minute each day to listen to your breath, to feel the presence of your body, and realize that right in that moment, you have enough. I once heard a small story about a person searching for happiness. This person traveled everywhere, looking for happiness in work, money, and relationships. But after a long time, he realized that happiness is not something you can find far away. It lies within yourself, in the simple moments we often overlook. Happiness is the appreciation of what we already have, not the desire for what hasn't come. Living fully is living with gratitude, and acceptance. Every day, we have the opportunity to live fully, to love what we have, and to feel what is around us. Sometimes, a simple act like enjoying a good meal, watching the blue sky, or feeling your own breath is enough to bring peace to your heart. How to live fully. It is knowing how to let go of worries about the future, knowing how not to compare yourself with others, and most importantly, knowing how to feel the fullness in each moment. When we realize that we have enough, that what we have is precious and worth cherishing, we will live a complete life, no longer feeling lacking, no longer worrying about what has not yet come. Forgiveness is one of the most important elements in a true friendship. Forgiveness is not only about pardoning your friend when they make a mistake, but also about accepting and loving them despite their flaws and imperfections. When we forgive our friends, we not only create a safe space for them, but also help them grow and mature. Maya and I have had moments where both of us were exhausted, both physically and mentally. However, it was the forgiveness and empathy we shared that helped us overcome everything. Mai never judged me when I made a mistake, and I never judged her when she was wrong. We understood that everyone has moments of weakness, and friendship is about accepting those weaknesses without judgment. True friendship is one of the most valuable gifts we can have in life. Friendship is not about flowery words or grand gestures, but about understanding, forgiveness, and acceptance. True friendship is when we can be ourselves, when we don't have to fake or hide anything, and when we have a true friend by our side, life becomes much more meaningful and beautiful. Friendship is not only about sharing good times, but also about empathy in difficult moments. It doesn't need to be showy. It only requires sincerity, listening, and love. Friendships like these will last and bring peace to the soul of each person. We may meet many people, but only a few will become real friends. True friendship is not a simple relationship, but a deep connection between two souls built on trust, understanding, and forgiveness. The Buddha taught that true friendship is one of the precious relationships in life, helping us grow and find peace in our hearts. And forgiveness, an essential element of friendship, is the key to healing wounds in relationships and allowing us to continue loving without being burdened. Anne is a close friend of mine, someone I met during college. We were classmates and became close friends from the very beginning. Our friendship has gone through many ups and downs. For a long time, we were very close, sharing everything in life, from small joys to major difficulties. But then, a misunderstanding occurred, and one time, I hurt Anne. At that time, I didn't realize I had made a mistake, but Anne felt very sad and disappointed. She didn't say anything, but I could feel the change in our relationship. As time passed, I regretted my actions deeply. I knew I had hurt Anne, but I didn't know how to apologize and make amends. I tried to get closer to her, but every time I tried, I found myself awkward and unsure of what to say. Our friendship began to drift apart. Then one day, Anne unexpectedly came to meet me. She sat down, looked at me, and said, "I've thought a lot about what happened, and I understand that there are things that cannot be changed. But I want to say that I forgive you. Our friendship is worth more than any misunderstanding. I hope you also understand that forgiveness is not about forgetting, but about letting go so that we continue walking together." Anne's words were like a warm wave soothing my soul. At that moment, I felt the greatness of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not easy, especially when emotions have been hurt. But that forgiveness saved our friendship and brought a sense of relief I had never felt before. That feeling was like a door opening after days of being closed. The Buddha taught that true friendship is not only about companionship in joyful times, but also about sharing in difficult times. True friendship is when we can listen and understand each other without judgment. The Buddha taught that friendship should be built on a foundation of compassion and forgiveness. We love our friends, not because they are perfect, but because we accept and love their flaws, just as they love and accept ours. True friendship is when we don't need to show off or seek recognition from others. It is not a relationship where we try to assert our ego, but one based on respect and mutual understanding. In difficult times, a true friend will not only help us overcome the pain, but also help us reflect on ourselves, showing us that friendship is a priceless gift, a place where we can find comfort and real joy. Forgiveness is one of the most important factors in maintaining true friendship. Forgiveness is not forgetting everything, but accepting each other's mistakes and shortcomings so that we are not bound by the past. The Buddha taught that forgiveness not only frees us from negative emotions, but also brings peace to our hearts. Forgiveness is an act of compassion. When we forgive, we not only help others heal, but also help ourselves find peace. We cannot change the past, but we can choose how to live with it. Forgiveness helps us let go of the burdens in our hearts, and only by letting go can we move forward in life. There is a short story I really like. A student asked his teacher, "Master, if someone hurts me, what should I do?" The teacher replied, "You should forgive that person, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace in your heart." This answer helped me understand that forgiveness is not for others, but for ourselves. When we hold on to sadness in our hearts, we will never feel at peace. Tolerance is an essential element of true friendship. Tolerance is when we accept our friend with all their mistakes and flaws. It doesn't mean we deny their mistakes, but we learn to see things from a different perspective, from a more generous heart. Tolerance is when we don't let our friends' mistakes harm the relationship, but instead, we learn to forgive and move forward together. Lan, a close friend of mine, helped me understand tolerance in friendship better. She has a very mischievous son who always does things she doesn't agree with. But every time her son makes a mistake, she doesn't yell or scold. She simply says, "I don't agree with what you did, but I still love you." This tolerance is not just forgiveness, but also the acceptance that everyone has moments of weakness and that love is the most important thing. True friendship and forgiveness are two important elements that help us find peace in our hearts. When we love and tolerate, we not only bring warmth to those around us, but also help ourselves live more lightly, not burdened by the unresolved issues in our hearts. The Buddha taught that when we practice true friendship and forgiveness, we will live in harmony, love, and peace. Remember that friendship is not perfection, but understanding and acceptance. Forgiveness is not forgetting, but letting go so we can continue to love and live in peace. And when we practice true friendship and forgiveness, life will become lighter, more beautiful, and full of love. In modern life, with its fast pace and busyness, many of us seem to have no time to stop, to think, and to feel. We live hurriedly, not only in work, but also in relationships, emotions, and in our own souls. The Buddha taught that slowing down is not only a way to reduce stress, but also a path to find peace in every action, in every moment of life. When we slow down, we truly feel the meaning of each step, each breath, and our connection with ourselves. Sometimes, life is not about doing as much as possible, but about doing things right, doing them fully, and doing them with a peaceful mind. The Buddha's teachings on mindfulness and living in the present help us realize that every action, even the smallest, can bring peace. The Buddha taught that to achieve peace in our hearts, we must slow down and practice mindfulness in every action. The race against time that Mai faced is the result of a lack of mindfulness. When we don't live in each present moment, we get caught up in worries about the future, regrets about the past, and an endless rush to complete everything. This only makes us feel exhausted, stressed, and we never truly feel joy or peace. Slowing down doesn't mean giving up on all goals or work, but knowing how to do one thing fully and with a calm mind. When we pay attention to each action, no matter how simple, we will feel peace in it. For example, A very simple action like drinking a cup of tea can bring mindfulness. Instead of rushing, we can sit down, take a deep breath, feel the aroma of the tea, and savor each sip slowly. This is a way of slowing down that helps our hearts become lighter and more peaceful. Slowing down is also a way to understand ourselves better. When we are no longer swept away by thoughts about work, worries about the future, we can reflect on our true emotions and desires. This helps us live fully and not be influenced by external expectations. Knowing enough is an important factor in living fully. We often tend to chase after limitless goals and never feel satisfied. However, when we know enough, we no longer feel lack or always chase after what we don't have. Fulfillment comes from recognizing the values of the present, from appreciating what we have, and living with gratitude. I remember a small story about knowing enough that I will always remember. A person who was searching for happiness traveled everywhere, asking everyone, participating in many activities to find success. But in the end, he still didn't feel happy. One day, he met a meditation teacher, and the teacher asked, "You are searching for happiness, but have you ever stopped to feel the peace within you?" The person thought for a moment and then realized that happiness is not something you can search for out there, but is knowing enough and being satisfied with what you have. Life is a long journey, and happiness is not a destination, but each step along the way. Live in the present, be content with what you have, and appreciate the simple things in life. When we learn to love ourselves, live fully, and feel complete in each moment, we will find peace and true happiness. Happiness is not found in grand things or distant goals. Happiness is the awareness of what we have in this moment. When we live fully, we will see that life is truly meaningful and worth cherishing. Friendship is one of the most valuable gifts we can have. However, as society progresses and everything becomes busier and faster, we sometimes forget that true friendship is not about compliments, showing off, or proving anything. True, deep friendship is when we understand each other without needing to say much, when we are tolerant and accept each other's flaws without judgment. The Buddha taught that understanding and tolerance are the foundation of true friendship. To build strong friendships, we need to learn to see others with compassionate eyes, without expectations, without comparisons, and without seeking personal gain. True friendship is an unconditional relationship, not for personal gain, but a sharing of joy and sorrow, empathy in times of difficulty, and mutual respect. I have a close friend named Mai. We met when we were in college, and our friendship has lasted and grown over the years. Mai is someone who always knows how to listen and has been there for me during difficult times. But what I appreciate most about Mai is how she treats everyone, especially the friends around her. Mai never flaunts her friendship, and she doesn't seek compliments or recognition from others. But the things she does for me and for other friends, even small things, bring warmth and comfort. One time, during a long conversation, I asked Mai why she was always so quiet and never flaunted our friendship, even though we were very close. Mai smiled gently and answered, "Friendship is not about showing off or saying beautiful things. True friendship is when we are there for each other during difficult times, when we don't need to say anything, but still understand each other. I don't need to prove our friendship because it shows itself through simple actions, through care and sharing. Mai is someone I can talk to about everything, from big issues to small matters in life. And most importantly, I feel the deep understanding she has. When I face difficulties, Mai always knows how to help me look at the problem clearly and calmly. She never judges, never gives imposing advice, but is simply a friend who listens and shares what she thinks. There are many kinds of friendship, but not all friendships are genuine. Sometimes we meet people who are only friends for personal gain, for what we can get from the relationship. These friendships are often not long-lasting because they are based on selfishness, not sincerity. In contrast, true friendship is when we don't need to prove anything to each other. We don't need to flaunt what we have or talk about our achievements. True friendship is when we can sit together and share the small things without fear of being judged, when we can laugh and cry together without worrying about what the other person might think. I remember one time when I was struggling at work, I felt a lot of pressure. I told Mai about the worries and stress I was going through. Mai didn't say much, just listened and understood. After a while, she gently said, "I know what you're going through, but don't let those difficulties define you. You are capable of overcoming anything. Sometimes, just stopping for a moment and reassessing is enough." Just one simple sentence like that made me feel much lighter and calmer. Understanding is an important factor in any relationship, especially friendship. When we understand each other, we don't need to condemn or judge. Understanding helps us accept each other with all our flaws and differences. When there's understanding, friendship is no longer influenced by expectations or pressure. It becomes a gentle companionship where each person can be themselves without pretense. Mai and I have had times when we were upset with each other, moments when we disagreed on certain issues. But during those times, we didn't give up. We knew that friendship is not about perfection, but about acceptance and understanding each other. We always find ways to resolve conflicts through sharing and listening. And that's the key to our friendship growing stronger over time. The Buddha taught that living fully is not about chasing the expectations or desires of others, but about living authentically with oneself, loving and caring for those around us with an open heart. When we understand the value of living fully, free from the burden of expectations, we will experience peace and true happiness in our soul. In today's fast-paced and tempting life, we sometimes get caught up in the relentless race, seeking luxury and power. We want beautiful homes, fancy cars, extravagant vacations, and to achieve every success that society considers happiness. However, in the journey of searching for these things, have we forgotten something important? Peace is not something we can buy or find out there. It is found within ourselves in a simple and humble life. The Buddha taught that simplicity and humility are the ways to free ourselves from worry, excessive desire, and find peace in life. When we live simply, we are no longer swept away by material things or the expectations of others, but live with what is truly necessary, enough, and happy. Humility helps us realize our true value without having to boast or show off what we have. And in that simplicity, we find peace, because only when we no longer drown in desire can we truly live fully. Living simply does not mean giving up everything or living a poor life. It means knowing the difference between what is truly necessary and what is just a temporary desire. Simplicity is when we know how to live with enough, without greed, and without chasing after things that are beyond our reach. The Buddha taught that when we live simply, we are no longer swept away by endless desires, and we will feel peace in every moment. I remember once, while walking in the park, I saw an old man sitting alone on a bench, watching the birds fly in the sky. There was nothing special about him, but in his eyes, I felt a deep sense of peace. I approached and asked, "Do you feel lonely living by yourself?" He smiled and replied, "Life does not always need grand things. I have lived enough, and I find joy in the simple things, in watching the scenery around me, in the gentle breeze, and in quiet moments." His words made me think a lot. True peace is not about what we have or what we do, but how we feel and live with what we have. When we learn to live simply, we will see the world around us become more beautiful, and we will also find tranquility within ourselves. Humility is a very important quality in living a peaceful life. Humility does not mean lowering our own worth, but appreciating what we have and not comparing ourselves to others. Humility helps us realize that nothing is permanent, and we cannot control everything in life. We can only live truthfully with ourselves, with what we have, and love this life as a gift. To live simply and humbly, we first need to learn to recognize and distinguish between what we truly need and what we want. When we live too much for temporary desires, we will always feel lacking and never truly feel enough. But when we realize that happiness is not about achieving everything we want, but knowing enough and being satisfied with what we have, we will feel our soul lighter and more peaceful. One way to practice simplicity is to take time for the small moments in life. It can be a morning spent drinking tea, a short walk in the park, or simply taking the time to listen to our loved ones without thinking about work or distant goals. Simplicity and humility are core values that help us live peacefully and happily. When we learn to let go of expectations and live with what we have, we will find peace in our soul. Peace is not a distant destination, but a state of the soul that can be achieved in the simplest moments of life. Therefore, instead of racing towards things that will never be enough, live simply and humbly. Feel peace in every step, every breath, and in each moment of life. When we understand that life is not a race, but a journey to appreciate the beauty in each simple thing, we will find true happiness and peace. In life, we often get stuck in thoughts of perfection. We want everything to be perfect, from our work, family, relationships, to every step in life. Perfectionism sometimes makes us people who never feel satisfied with ourselves and what we have. The Buddha taught that living mindfully in each moment and learning to let go of perfectionism is the key to finding true peace. The Buddha taught that living fully is not about chasing the expectations or desires of others, but about living authentically with oneself, loving and caring for those around us with an open heart. When we understand the value of living fully, free from the burden of expectations, we will experience peace and true happiness in our soul. In today's fast-paced and tempting life, we sometimes get caught up in the relentless race, seeking luxury and power. We want beautiful homes, fancy cars, extravagant vacations, and to achieve every success that society considers happiness. However, in the journey of searching for these things, have we forgotten something important? Peace is not something we can buy or find out there. It is found within ourselves in a simple and humble life. The Buddha taught that simplicity and humility are the ways to free ourselves from worry, excessive desire, and find peace in life. When we live simply, we are no longer swept away by material things or the expectations of others, but live with what is truly necessary, enough, and happy. Humility helps us realize our true value without having to boast or show off what we have. And in that simplicity, we find peace, because only when we no longer drown in desire can we truly live fully. Living simply does not mean giving up everything or living a poor life. It means knowing the difference between what is truly necessary and what is just a temporary desire. Simplicity is when we know how to live with enough, without greed, and without chasing after things that are beyond our reach. The Buddha taught that when we live simply, we are no longer swept away by endless desires, and we will feel peace in every moment. I remember once, while walking in the park, I saw an old man sitting alone on a bench, watching the birds fly in the sky. There was nothing special about him, but in his eyes, I felt a deep sense of peace. I approached and asked, "Do you feel lonely living by yourself?" He smiled and replied, "Life does not always need grand things. I have lived enough, and I find joy in the simple things, in watching the scenery around me, in the gentle breeze, and in quiet moments." His words made me think a lot. True peace is not about what we have or what we do, but how we feel and live with what we have. When we learn to live simply, we will see the world around us become more beautiful, and we will also find tranquility within ourselves. Humility is a very important quality in living a peaceful life. Humility does not mean lowering our own worth, but appreciating what we have and not comparing ourselves to others. Humility helps us realize that nothing is permanent and we cannot control everything in life. We can only live truthfully with ourselves, with what we have, and love this life as a gift. To live simply and humbly, we first need to learn to recognize and distinguish between what we truly need and what we want. When we live too much for temporary desires, we will always feel lacking and never truly feel enough. But when we realize that happiness is not about achieving everything we want, but knowing enough and being satisfied with what we have, we will feel our soul lighter and more peaceful. One way to practice simplicity is to take time for the small moments in life. It can be a morning spent drinking tea, a short walk in the park, or simply taking the time to listen to our loved ones without thinking about work or distant goals. Simplicity and humility are core values that help us live peacefully and happily. When we learn to let go of expectations and live with what we have, we will find peace in our soul. Peace is not a distant destination, but a state of the soul that can be achieved in the simplest moments of life. Therefore, instead of racing towards things that will never be enough, live simply and humbly. Feel peace in every step, every breath, and in each moment of life. When we understand that life is not a race, but a journey to appreciate the beauty in each simple thing, we will find true happiness and peace. In life, we often get stuck in thoughts of perfection. We want everything to be perfect, from our work, family, relationships, to every step in life. Perfectionism sometimes makes us people who never feel satisfied with ourselves and what we have. The Buddha taught that living mindfully in each moment and learning to let go of perfectionism is the key to finding true peace. The Buddha taught that living fully is not about chasing after the expectations or desires of others, but about living authentically with oneself, loving and caring for those around us with an open heart. When we understand the value of living fully, free from the burden of expectations, we will feel peace and true happiness in our souls. In today's fast-paced and tempting world, we sometimes get caught up in the endless race, seeking luxury and power. We want beautiful houses, fancy cars, extravagant vacations, and to achieve every success that society considers happiness. However, in the journey of searching for these things, have we forgotten something important? Peace is not something we can buy or find out there. It is found within ourselves, in a simple and humble life. The Buddha taught that simplicity and humility are the ways to free ourselves from worry, excessive desire, and find peace in life. When we live simply, we are no longer swept away by material things or the expectations of others, but live with what is truly necessary, enough, and happy. Humility helps us realize our true value without having to boast or show off what we have. And in that simplicity, we find peace, because only when we no longer drown in desire can we truly live fully. Living simply does not mean giving up everything or living a poor life. It means knowing the difference between what is truly necessary and what is just a temporary desire. Simplicity is when we know how to live with enough, without greed, and without chasing after things that are beyond our reach. The Buddha taught that when we live simply, we are no longer swept away by endless desires, and we will feel peace in every moment. I remember once, while walking in the park, I saw an old man sitting alone on a bench, watching the birds fly in the sky. There was nothing special about him, but in his eyes, I felt a deep sense of peace. I approached and asked, "Do you feel lonely living by yourself?" He smiled and replied, "Life does not always need grand things. I have lived enough, and I find joy in the simple things, in watching the scenery around me, in the gentle breeze, and in quiet moments." His words made me think a lot. True peace is not about what we have or what we do, but how we feel and live with what we have. When we learn to live simply, we will see the world around us become more beautiful, and we will also find tranquility within ourselves. Humility is a very important quality in living a peaceful life. Humility does not mean lowering our own worth, but appreciating what we have and not comparing ourselves to others. Humility helps us realize that nothing is permanent, and we cannot control everything in life. We can only live truthfully with ourselves, with what we have, and love this life as a gift. To live simply and humbly, we first need to learn to recognize and distinguish between what we truly need and what we want. When we live too much for temporary desires, we will always feel lacking and never truly feel enough. But when we realize that happiness is not about achieving everything we want, but knowing enough and being satisfied with what we have, we will feel our soul lighter and more peaceful. One way to practice simplicity is to take time for the small moments in life. It can be a morning spent drinking tea, a short walk in the park, or simply taking the time to listen to our loved ones without thinking about work or distant goals. Simplicity and humility are core values that help us live peacefully and happily. When we learn to let go of expectations and live with what we have, we will find peace in our soul. Peace is not a distant destination, but a state of the soul that can be achieved in the simplest moments of life. Therefore, instead of racing towards things that will never be enough, live simply and humbly. Feel peace in every step, every breath, and in each moment of life. When we understand that life is not a race, but a journey to appreciate the beauty in each simple thing, we will find true happiness and peace. In life, we often get stuck in thoughts of perfection. We want everything to be perfect, from our work, family, relationships, to every step in life. Perfectionism sometimes makes us people who never feel satisfied with ourselves and what we have. The Buddha taught that living mindfully in each moment and learning to let go of perfectionism is the key to finding true peace. To find peace in this life, we need to learn to slow down so that our minds are not swept away by worries about the future or the past. Mindfulness, focusing on each moment, helps us realize that what we already have is enough to live happily. Peace is not a destination, but a state of the soul that we can feel in every step, in every breath. One way to live fully in each moment is to take time to do the things we love, not for a goal, but for the enjoyment and joy in the act itself. When we eat, we should eat slowly and enjoy the meal with gratitude. When we walk, we should walk slowly and feel each step, allowing our souls to relax. Every moment can become an opportunity to practice mindfulness and find joy. Peace is not something far off, but something we can feel in each present moment. When we slow down and live fully with the simple things, we will find the peace we are seeking. Peace lies in the little things, in the quiet moments amidst the hustle of life. Take time to stop, to feel, and appreciate what you have, and you will see that life is more beautiful and complete than ever. Life does not always require grand goals or extraordinary successes to feel happy. True happiness comes from appreciating the simple moments, from living mindfully, and letting go of unnecessary worries. When we live with gratitude and completeness in every action, we will find peace right here in this life. Life is short, and sometimes we forget that. We race against time, work, and the expectations of others. And in the process, life passes by in stress and fatigue. Worries about the future, regrets about the past, sometimes make us forget that happiness is not something far away, but it can be peace in each present moment. The Buddha taught that life is impermanent and fragile. Every moment is valuable, and we can only find peace when we let go of unnecessary burdens. When we learn to live lightly, not letting worries and pressures control our minds. When we no longer carry meaningless worries, when we learn to live lightly, life becomes simpler and more peaceful. This does not mean we neglect our responsibilities or abandon what is important, but it means knowing the difference between what needs to be done and what is unnecessary, accepting that life cannot be perfect and we are not perfect people. The Buddha teaches that peace comes from letting go. When we no longer let worries and unrealistic expectations control us, we can feel peace in every moment. Every second of life is precious, and we do not need to do too much to find joy. Joy comes from being present in life, from the simple and genuine things. Life is not always filled with great challenges, but it is the continuation of small moments. When we slow down, we can feel joy in every moment, from enjoying a meal to walking in the sunlight, or simply listening to a favorite song. These simple things are often the most valuable moments, helping our souls feel light and at peace. I remember once a friend and I were walking in the park on a morning. We did not talk much, only silently enjoying the fresh air and feeling every step. When we sat on a bench and looked at the birds flying in the sky, I felt the stillness in my soul. That was a peaceful moment I had overlooked for a long time while chasing endless goals. Life is short and impermanent, so we don't need to carry everything while forgetting ourselves. Learn to live lightly, let go of unnecessary worries and perfectionism, and live fully with what you have. Only when we let go of invisible burdens can we find peace in every moment. Peace is not something far off, but a feeling in the simple moments. When we live lightly and accept that life cannot be perfect, we will see that we are enough and happy. So let everything unfold naturally and live fully in each moment, so life becomes more beautiful and meaningful. Life is a series of moments in succession, and sometimes we live without fully realizing what is happening around us. From quick meals to hurried meetings, we easily overlook the small things that are truly precious. Sometimes we live in worries, anxieties about the future, about things not yet happened, forgetting that true peace can only come when we live mindfully, let go of unnecessary worries, and accept ourselves. The Buddha taught that mindfulness is one of the most important paths to peace. When we live mindfully, we are no longer swept away by the whirlwind of thoughts, anxieties, or endless expectations. We will know how to let go of psychological burdens, allowing our souls to become light and peaceful. And once we learn to accept ourselves, we will no longer feel deprived or suffering from things that cannot be changed. One important step in living mindfully is learning to let go of unnecessary worries and accept things that cannot be changed. We often worry about things beyond our control, about things that have not yet happened, and create endless feelings of stress and anxiety. But when we realize that worry only makes our soul more tired without changing anything, we will learn to let go. Self-acceptance is also an important part of this process. Sometimes we feel not good enough, not smart enough, and that is why we are always concerned and anxious. But the truth is, everyone has their own value, and no one is perfect. The Buddha taught that self-acceptance is the first step to achieving peace in the soul. When we accept our flaws, we no longer feel the pressure to become an ideal model, but to live truly with ourselves, with what we have. This life, although short, can bring peace if we know how to live in each moment, accept what cannot be changed, and let go of unnecessary worries. To experience each present moment, whether it's a breath, a step, or a word, is the way to live fully and not be affected by negative thoughts or worries about the future. Next time when you feel anxious or stressed, try stopping for a moment, taking a deep breath, and realize that you are living in the present. You don't have to do everything perfectly. Let your soul relax and be free, and you will feel peace coming closer. Life is a series of precious moments, and only when we live mindfully, let go of worries, and accept ourselves can we truly feel peace. The Buddha pointed out that happiness is not something far away, but the presence in this life, in every breath, every small action. Live fully with each moment, because that is the only path to peace and happiness. Sometimes we are too caught up in our thoughts, worries, and expectations, forgetting that life is happening right before our eyes. We can spend a lot of time worrying about things that have not come, about things that have not happened, and about things that cannot be changed. The Buddha taught that to live a peaceful life, we need to live in the present, let go of useless worries, and have deep awareness of what we have. A simple but very important question that each of us should ask ourselves is, how am I living? Life can be a long journey, but if we do not pay attention and live fully in each moment, we will feel we have wasted time on unnecessary worries. Awareness is the key that helps us realize what is happening around us and live in the present, so we do not miss the precious moments of life. The Buddha taught that we cannot change the past, and the future is not here yet. The only thing we can control is the present, the moment we are living in. When we live in the present, we will feel everything more clearly, and our souls will become lighter, not weighed down by anxiety. Awareness of the present helps us reassess the values in life and understand that what we have is enough. I remember once, when I was walking in the park, I stopped at a bench and sat quietly, looking out into the distance. I noticed birds flying across the vast blue sky, feeling the gentle breeze blowing through my hair. A sense of peace spread through me. I no longer thought about work, about things to do, or about things that had passed. I focused only on what was happening right now, and I felt the completeness of each moment. That was mindful living. We sometimes get caught in the whirlwind of anxiety about the future, unfinished plans, and uncertain events. But what the Buddha wants us to understand is that peace only comes when we know how to let go of worries and accept what is happening in the present. Letting go does not mean abandoning all responsibilities, but not letting invisible worries make our souls heavy. The Buddha taught that living fully is not about chasing the expectations or desires of others, but about being true to oneself, loving and caring for those around us with an open heart. When we understand the value of living fully, free from the burden of expectations, we will experience true peace and happiness in our hearts. In the fast-paced and tempting life we live today, we sometimes get caught up in the never-ending race, searching for luxury and power. We want beautiful houses, expensive cars, extravagant vacations, and to achieve every success that society defines as happiness. However, throughout this journey in search of these things, have we forgotten something important? Peace is not something we can buy or find out there. It is something we find within ourselves, in the simple and humble life. The Buddha taught that simplicity and humility are the paths that help us free ourselves from anxiety, excessive desires, and find peace in life. When we live simply, we are no longer caught up in material things or the expectations of others, but live with what is truly necessary, full and happy. Humility helps us recognize our true value without the need to show off or boast about what we have. And in that simplicity, we find peace, because only when we are not immersed in cravings can we truly live fully. Living simply does not mean giving up everything or living a poor life. It means knowing the difference between what is truly necessary and what is just a temporary desire. Simplicity is when we know how to live sufficiently, without greed, without chasing after things beyond our reach. The Buddha taught that when we live simply, we are no longer swept up in endless desires, and we will feel peace in every moment. I remember once, when walking in the park, I saw an old man sitting alone on a bench, watching the birds fly in the sky. There was nothing special about the old man, but in his eyes, I felt a deep sense of peace. I approached him and asked, "Do you feel lonely living alone like this?" He smiled and replied, "Life doesn't always need big things. I have lived enough, and I find joy in simple things, in watching the scenery around me, in the gentle winds and peaceful moments." His words made me think a lot. True peace is not about what we have or what we do, but how we perceive and live with what we have. When we learn to live simply, we will see the world around us become more beautiful, and within our hearts, we will find tranquility. Humility is an important quality in living a peaceful life. Humility does not mean belittling ourselves, but appreciating what we have and not comparing ourselves with others. Humility helps us realize that nothing is permanent and we cannot control everything in life. We can only live truly with ourselves, with what we have, and love life as a gift. To live simply and humbly, we first need to learn to recognize and distinguish between what we truly need and what we want. When we live too much for temporary desires, we will always feel lacking and never truly experience sufficiency. But when we realize that happiness is not about achieving everything we want, but about knowing enough and being content with what we have, we will feel our souls lighter and more at peace. One way to practice simplicity is by spending time in small moments of life. It could be a quiet morning sitting with tea, a short walk in the park, or simply spending time listening to our loved ones without worrying about work or distant goals. Simplicity and humility are the core values that help us live in peace and happiness. When we learn to let go of expectations and live with what we have, we will find peace in our hearts. Peace is not a distant destination, but a state of the soul that can be achieved in the simplest moments of life. So instead of racing after things that will never be enough, live simply and humbly. Feel the peace in every step, every breath, and every moment of life. When we understand that life is not a race, but a journey to appreciate the beauty in every simple thing, we will find true happiness and peace. In life, we often get caught up in thoughts of perfection. We want everything to be perfect, from work, family, relationships, to every step we take. Perfectionism sometimes makes us people who never feel satisfied with ourselves and what we have. The Buddha taught that living mindfully in each moment and learning to let go of perfectionism is the key to finding true peace.